Alright, so I'm a writer and I wrote this recently and I wanted to read it to you guys just so maybe it would hit the right audience. Are you a writer? A question that reinstates my innate passion for literature, the only passion that pulls the thread that ties my string of words so delicately together. It's a form of art. It's a translation of mindful human reflection. Symbols assembled to define and refine perception in part by the simple act of observation. An opportunity to fine-tune every thought. We're brought alive to detail the complexity of life itself. Our own perception is just a fragment of the overall consciousness without our attention to detail. The entirety of being would be threatened to collapse, and we'd cease to exist. As humans, we are irrelevant only because of our current occupancy. We must feel alone only due to our inflated sense of humanity. We are not the only ones in the snow globe, although the abundance of space is inconceivable. It's almost like we believe our brain can make sense of all of it, only to fill in the gaps of knowledge with a common thread, the presence of other life forms. The cosmos are silent for a reason. There's nothing but intention in the midst of tens of stars. I feel alone as a man in the world. I don't know if anyone feels the same way or gets in these moments, but it's every day. I think men deal with shame when talking about an emotion, hormones. Most of their ability to be vulnerable is suppressed because it's all in a day's work. Vulnerability is suppressed because in nature, these primal instincts become more prevalent, as we've seen with gorillas and lions, packs, because their lives are marked by survival. There is no safety net. It's killed or be killed, essentially. And so when we add language, our ability to communicate using physical space, writing, letters, numbers, symbols, and verbal cues, it tends to complicate things for humans. It's not about survival anymore. It's about control. That's why religion was created. It structured the environment both physically, because of community, and psychologically, because of community. It held the man at the head of the creation, language, history, politics, humanity's narrative. Evolution made it so survival wasn't threatened. Women bear children. They bear pain through full cycles of intensive maternal development. Men bear pain through their own workings, wars, and wrongs. Men get envious. Men get aggressive. Men can get it wrong. With that comes layers of shame, fight, or flight in response to being caught, family annihilators. Men tend to resort to violence because it is a part of biology most of the time. Men have hormones that don't necessarily make them more aggressive, but the threshold tightens when there is a threatening stimulus, making them act out. People say it's good for some men to play video games because it gets their anger out. No, in fact, extorting negative energy like aggression in activities like violent video games and graphic horror movies lowers the man's ability to control the exertion of aggressive behavior, and also can lead to further more adrenaline, aggressive-seeking behaviors. It's a sad world only because there's established male billionaires and people with money that really control reality. They control the flow of money that could change the course of media as we know it or blur lines of clearly defined concepts to confuse us. And to further sit so many monopolies at the dinner table, there's no room for other creative ideas. I don't want to blame men. I don't want to blame women, because why women? I think the word men was assigned to a biologically developed genitalia to establish what we only knew was fundamental or even just primate biology. We saw what stood strong and carried us to survive the wars, the spiritual battles, and famine. I do not know what can fix the idea of men. There's a justified hurt and anger towards men because women were caught in their most vulnerable spot and ultimately taken advantage of because men can disagree with someone, men can be stubborn, men can be envious, but women just like to disagree, and women can be complicated, and women can be bitter. I think it's really important for us to remember who stabilized the home when men were gone doing wars, who stabilized the economy while men threw their dicks around, who stabilized the classroom and men dragged other men to go fight against other men against men who were against their men. It didn't make sense. I mean, that's why most of the teaching field is primarily women. And also as a substitute, why I saw so many kids who wanted male teachers or who never saw a male teacher in their life. And, we connected in that way. And so I think there's a forgiving story behind the word men. And like everything else, language can further complicate simple concepts of nature and physics as well. When I say I'm a man that feels alone in a man's world, men become psychology majors. Men become dads because they want to be a dad. Men can be patient. Men can spark up family meetings, emotionally regulate spouse, loved ones, talk through things, get through things instead of over things, talk about autonomy, lead with a heavy heart, hold a strong mind, break down, cry, run, rebound. So yes, I'm sure me and every 22-year-old man, woman are fighting these stereotypes that are so prevalent but also manageable. And it's because of a man's innate ability to deflect, which is only a reflection of one's desperate desire to feel secure, that we burn the bridge that allows women to be vulnerable while not having this fear that a vulnerable man is losing control and decides to take extreme measures. When I say spiritual enlightenment battles, I'm going to call it hope, because that's the paramount of spirituality. Hope of tomorrow, hope for a future. Hope has always kept us alive, and because the idea of an eternal sunshine is comforting, we love hope. But I also understand that people do not seek spiritual fulfillment, and that is entirely valid and true. Pain is spiritual and psychological. However, we deal with pain with the exception of self-deprivation, and self-harm is important to our identity. And that's good for us to use as a tool to navigate a conversation with someone with an opposite view or understanding of yours. You can't get mad at people for relating in a way they only know how to relate to. Oh my gosh, my dad doesn't understand me and he compares his life to mine and thinks his life was harder. I think we might overestimate our parents' ability to totally deflect. It's not attached to anger, hopefully, or a stubborn parent's dream of minimizing your story. It's a way of holding on to the fact that you raise your kids to be the best ever and then they get misguided and you lose them. And yes, there's a type of grief associated with the dying idea of a perfect child. And then the parent also has to manage how far they let their kid just walk off while trying to frame these moments of turmoil as, is it me and my kid against the problem, or me and my problem against my kid? Sometimes we blame our parents because it will always be a parent's obligation to be the backbone of the family, give their kid, to be strong for their kids. But a strong family in crisis does not leave anyone behind, nor does it let bitter arguments stand in the way of a strong lifelong relationship with your son, daughter, or child. And that was my entire writing. I thought I'd just share this with someone, men, women, anyone who's, young adult, transitioning from adolescence to young adulthood, struggling, but, I'm trying.